Welcome, fellow artists and art enthusiasts, to where 2D and 3D meet, a podcast about art, what it is and what it means to us. I am Cade, your humble editor, and I have a BFA in being the one who does the intro now. On this week's episode, the battle we've all been waiting for. Dun 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 dun. In the purple corner, weighing in at 2 dimensions, those of course being length and width, it's 2D. And in the pink corner, weighing in at 3 entire dimensions, which are of course the same as 2D, but with the addition of depth, which seems like simple math to me, but I only have a BFA in being the one who does the intro now, so what do I know? Give it up for 3D. Who will take home the universe's coolest dimension trophy? Was the first dimension even informed of this fight? How many times has Kelli set herself on fire? We take you now to our culture correspondent, the 4th dimension, for the details.
In my final painting class, my professor asked me, "Why did you use paint for this?" In the context of the class, it seemed a little silly to be asking me that, but I had also never thought of it before. Why did I choose paint? Now, at the time, the only thing my dumb brain could think of was, because this is a painting class? There is never a simple answer to these type of questions, but part of the reason I chose to use paint is that I feel drawn to it. I love the color, the viscosity, the ability to turn almost any surface into a canvas, and the general ease in which I can correct or hide mistakes. Along with loving paint, I chose 2D mediums over that of 3D because I did not like the general messiness, and I felt a certain lack of control with the 3D mediums I tried. I mean, like, I hurt myself fairly often while working on 3D projects. Like, as in set myself on fire, hurt myself. 2D just came more naturally to me, and I didn't leave feeling like a 4-year-old that was given sharp objects to play with.
When I was in college, we had to take many different classes before choosing an emphasis for our art degree, so I took all the foundations courses, and included in that was a sculpture class. For one of the projects, we had to make a small stone piece. They had pieces of Utah alabaster for us to buy, which were these really nice tones from dark gray to bright orange. I chose a lovely orange stone and made an abstract bird. The process was so satisfying, even though it took me like a month to do. The result was gorgeous, and it's still one of my favorite pieces. After that, I was hooked, and I wanted to do more and more stone.
My weapons, if you will, are generally speaking paint, including oil, acrylic, spray paint, and digital digital photography and digital videography. Although I did do some 3D modeling in VR that was amazing, and I would love to do that again.
Oh my god, I'm so jealous.
Alongside all of the other ones you see on the screen that I have at least somewhat handled before. If you're curious about anything else, let us know in the comments, and we can answer any questions. We might even make a full episode about it. Wink, wink, hint, hint.
Wink, hint, hint. My weapons of choice. Stone. I love stone so dang much. It's so gorgeous. Wood. Slightly easier to carve, but still really satisfying. Clay. So many possibilities. And then I also really like watercolor and photography.
Wow, you're so excited about watercolor and photography.
I'm 3D. We're talking about the 3D things right now. I just had to admit that I do like watercolor and photography. Sometimes in sculpture, you miss out on the color, and watercolor just goes down really nice and can be really vibrant and everything, so I like that a lot.
I hate watercolor,
by
the way.
Okay, and then I do love basically every art. That's the point of 3D. You can use whatever you want or need to make the art in your head. Also, I love trying new materials and new techniques. Again, let us know if you want information about any of these on screen. There's some cool stuff in here that we just don't have the time to talk about today.
Alright, my battle strategy is I plan out the general idea of what my piece is going to be before I start working on the piece. I do research on the message that I've chosen. Sometimes that means that the message changes during my research. but I do a lot of beforehand stuff before like brush touches canvas or anything else. I find reference images or inspiration as needed, and I love being able to project images onto canvas and then using those projected images, usually that I combine on using Photoshop and then painting, at least for my painting work. For any piece that I work on, as I'm working on the piece, the specifics of each piece becomes more apparent. I always like to leave some flexibility in my plans if things need changing, which is completely opposite of like what my photography battle strategy is. Photography, I just like to go out and take pictures of what really strikes me with just a general idea in mind of what I kind of want. So I do a lot less research on my photography stuff than I do on my video and painting.
You let the photography itself lead you?
Yeah, I'm more like a chameleon. I like to kind of blend into the background and take pictures of stuff that's going on, but I like plan out where I'm gonna go and the like general idea about the area that I want to take photographs of. Mm-hmm. So, but like I don't do staged photography. I do street photography. So it's like in the moment, very much like whatever happens to be going on that day. Whether it's freezing rain or whether it's hot and dry, like that's just not going to put me off. But I just kind of go out there and see what the world tells me is what I'm going to be photographing.
So my battle strategy is I start by brainstorming the topics that are important to me or choose one that's present on my mind at the time. Then I research it, look up reference pictures, and learn about the medium if I haven't used it before or if I need to brush up on tools or methods. Then I make sketches. For 3D, the sketches are usually quickly followed by making models or maquettes using oil clay. I may work on the maquette for like 5 hours, sometimes more, solving the problems and perfecting the design. You can't make easy changes in carving, so you want to solve all of the problems that you can foresee before you get to the subtractive material.
That's why I hate it.
So I'm more productive and clear-headed in the morning, but I can work at any hour if I am really into the artwork. And in 3D, it's really important to look at the piece and work on it from all angles, move around the piece, look at it from far away as well, as frequently as you can. I really, really enjoy the problem solving in art, the constant decision making and getting to understand the material and the tools.
Okay, so as far as catastrophes go, 3D catastrophes in specific, boy, which one do I want to talk about? So many to choose from. Let's just pick a one that I can remember that's quite memorable. Which is a replica of a ancient pot that was an assignment for me, and I'm not joking, this pot doubles as a murder weapon. It's 15 inches tall, and it weighs in at a hefty 13 pounds. That's almost a pound per inch. This thing took way too much terracotta clay and far too much of my time trying to get this right. Its opening's not center, the walls are like an inch thick, and this coil pot is to end all coil pots. I hated every minute of making the damn thing, other than the color, which is gorgeous, like teal green color.
Such a good color.
I am not... It's such a good color, and it's on a pot that I hate. I don't even know what to use this for. Like, it's too big to use it for anything like a cup. You can't really like put flowers in it or anything. Not that I like flowers or whatever, but like it's an ancient pot.
Why couldn't you put flowers in it?
Oh, because like I couldn't get the glaze all the way in there, so like it's not completely sealed on the inside. because I was dumb and glazed the outside and then went,
heck.
I need to glaze the inside.
Dang.
But I can't touch the outside because if I touch the outside, then I'll
Goof.
pick up the glaze. Wow. And I had already painted the designs on it and everything. It was, yeah. So I can't put real flowers in. I guess I could put fake flowers in it, but like, I'm not a flower. Okay, I have a love-hate relationship with flowers. I paint a lot of flowers, okay? So I have a lot of flower paintings. I don't need like fake flowers in my life. I have pictures of flowers in my life. But it does make a good murder weapon. It would totally crush someone's skull. I'm not joking. And it is...
It was so heavy. I picked it up and I was like, are you serious?
It doesn't look like it should be that heavy, but then you like pick it up and you're like, what the
Diddly.
man? What is this full of? Rocks?
No, literally,
No,
yes.
it's just... well, it's just made of rocks.
I don't think that it matters that it's not centered. The point of the coil pot is that it's not thrown on the wheel, right? So like it doesn't need to be perfect.
I made that thing almost symmetrical in circular way on the outside, okay? The fact that the center part is not centered bugs the shit out of me. Like, I made everything else perfect. Except as I got building up the walls, which by the way was a pain in the ass because it comes up and then it almost goes flat.
I've never
to make
made a coil pot this thick.
Yeah, it was in, and I'm just like, I had to make it that thick in order to, or I felt like I had to make it that thick in order to like make it so that the top part, because it's so flat on the top, because it curves over this big hump and then comes down to be really flat. For the top part, and like that part felt like it was going to like fall in on itself so many times.
That makes sense.
And I thought I had it perfect, and then I got done with it and I'm like,
baloney.
we probably need to edit out that F word, Cadence, if you would. Just put a beeper or something.
Hi Eric, you get the unedited version.
Hi, Eric.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So my 2D catastrophe is this perspective project. I don't know if we'll actually be able to find the piece to take pictures of it, so sorry if there's not pictures right here, but it's a drawing of a house near where I lived at the time that I drew it. And I really
don't lie. You probably set this thing on fire or something after you were done.
Fire. I really, really liked this house. I thought it was so cute, and it has all these nice little details on the architecture. So I was like, that'll be fun to draw. Perspective is so hard. It seemed like the perspective lines were always off the edge of my paper, which made it hard to get it right and keep them in. I was like taping paper with the perspective dots to the edge so that I could get it on there. The straight lines in the architecture make it difficult to draw freely, and I drew this plein air, which means I was outside with a travel easel, which isn't light, by the way. I had to carry it over there walking because I didn't have a car at the time. And so then I was sitting in front of the house that I was drawing, and trying to do proper perspective while drawing plein air is so difficult. And I drew it super light. So even if we find this picture to photograph it, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. We'll have to edit it a lot so that you'll be able to see the pencil lines. And I just spent so much time on it, and I was just not satisfied.
Yeah, perspective's difficult. I do have to agree on that. But eventually, like, you just do it so often that you don't even need the perspective lines. You just kind of, like, do it.
So, for, I guess smaller things, it's fine. For, like, setting up a composition, I don't mind it. But, like, trying to make this house look right was so difficult.
Yeah. All right, so my 3D conquest, because I do have more than one of those. The number amount is more than 0. So I made this blue pot with the lid, And while throwing on the wheel will never be my favorite thing in the world because, oh god, like, you pinch just a tiny bit too hard and suddenly you have like a glob of clay just
spinning around.
You're spinning around and you're like, oh great, thanks, appreciate that. I do have to say the making of this pot was like pretty satisfying when I actually like got to like the 4th iteration of it and was actually able to do the damn thing. Creating the lid lip was a pain in the
Tuckus.
But I do love how beautiful the results are. I was somehow able to make the pot and lid just like perfectly fitted, almost perfect, so that they're not like, so that they like slide in perfect next to each other, so they're about the same size. And I adore the lightning design in the glaze, how that came out, which is just you like scratch off some of the glaze.
Ooh.
In a lightning design is what we did. And so like it's thin enough that like the glass part of the glaze still covers that area, but like the color doesn't.
That's pretty cool. What technique did you use to make the lid?
Oh.
Did you use calipers?
Calipers? No, I eyeballed that thing.
Oh my gosh. Why did you do it the hardest way?
Because they didn't offer me calipers, Jenna. Like, I've never handled calipers in my life until this year or last year when I bought some for myself.
Oh my gosh. They didn't have any available? What the? Okay.
No, if they did, I did not know about it, so I did it the hard way.
You threw the lid separately?
I threw the lid separately.
Wow. I don't even know what to say to that.
I was so frickin' proud of myself. You have no idea. Like when I pulled it off the wheel and it dried enough that I could handle it, and I like fitted it next to on top of the like clay pot, and I'm like,
heck
yeah, it fits. Oops, excuse me.
Hi again,
Cadence.
Eric.
Hi again, Eric. Cadence, you should probably bleep that out.
This is a very passionate episode.
It's a very passionate episode.
I don't think I've ever thrown a lid separately from the pot. That's especially not without calipers. Oh my goodness.
All right, so tell me about a 2D conquest, Jenna.
All right. This gorgeous gouache painting. Gouache is really similar to watercolor, in case you didn't know, but it's a little bit more opaque, so you can actually get whites that show up. So I've done this on toned paper. This is called Gardens. I really loved making all the tiny details in this image. I love gardens, so it was fun to pay attention to how each person had arranged their space and what they were growing. This is an area in Germany where most people live in apartments, so they came together and purchased this land together, and so everybody has just like a little gardening shed on the property instead of like a house. So they just have these tiny sheds and then the gardens and whatever they wanted to grow in the gardens. I drew it first with ink, and then I colored it in with the gouache. I think this would make a really fun puzzle.
You freaking started with ink, not pencil?
Oh yeah, because we were doing different techniques for the assignments, and so it was supposed to be like really rough, like just do squiggly. You can see how squiggly it is. Just little squiggly, sketchy things with the pen. And then being okay with whatever the shapes were. So the perspective on this is pretty easy. I was up on a bridge when I took the photograph. So the perspective just goes 1 point's perspective back into the distance. So it was a lot easier than the freaking house, which was 2 point perspective. And
oh no, not 2 point perspective.
2 whole points.
Whatever, 2 whole points, 2 whole dimensions. What shall I do?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you can see the ink on top of, I'm seeing the gouache on top of the ink in some places. And so it's just like supposed to be really free flowing, unlike the other one. And so that was a lot easier for me. And I'm really, really happy with the result.
All right, so I do have to admit, I do have the occasional 2D catastrophe. It happens to everybody. Even moi, your 2D master. So this is a catastrophe in a way. It's, to me, a catastrophe. Some people say it's a great painting, but it's not telling the story that I wanted to tell, so it's wrong. I called it the I Can Change You, and it was part of my lesbian series. And I really struggled with the expression on this one. I couldn't get the creeper vibes across that I wanted to. And I fought and fought and fought with this painting. The color choices, I could not get these micro expressions to come out the way I wanted them to. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if I just didn't have the skills to pull off micro expressions, or if maybe micro expressions don't really show up very well on a painting, or perhaps the painting is too small to convey because it's 12 by 24. It's not big.
Yeah. And you're a perfectionist if I've ever seen one, so
I'd be okay with it if like I could just, if even a little bit of the painting kind of got what I was going across. My other two were such big successes in this series that I just, this just remains one of my biggest disappointments. Like, there's other paintings that I didn't do as well, and I didn't get the meaning across that I was trying to get, but it's just not the same when you have it in a series and your other two are so good.
Yeah, that does sound frustrating.
And so it will probably remain one of my biggest disappointments forever.
Maybe you should repaint it.
Yeah, maybe I should repaint it, but I'm still like, at this point I'm not sure if I do repaint it, I think it needs to be bigger. And the series is 12 the series are all 12 by 24 inches. So it would look really weird to have like a series of 3 with like one huge painting.
Yeah.
But if I do paint it, I think I might reimagine the entire thing. Like, I can't get the creeper vibes off this guy, so I'm thinking of just like taking his agency away and just making his face just not a face.
Yeah.
Like I did in my second painting. And just like, because then you have the facelessness, which kind of makes a creepiness. Like facelessness.
Yeah, that would probably bring it
especially in men, because we are not used to taking the agency away from men. And so, like, taking out the face. Yeah, it's a thought. But I chew over it at night sometimes, where I'm like, what could I have done to just, like, make this painting better? I even used, like, a blood red color for the background, like a really unsettling, like, blood red color. And it just didn't turn out the way. I mean, like, I'm a more experienced painter now, so if I do redo it or reimagine it, I think I could probably do it better through a reimagining than just like making it bigger, because I'm still not sure if I can convey micro expressions through paint very well. But yeah, I think maybe a reimagining of it could probably fix that, and then I'd at least, not feel quite so disappointed about it.
Speaking of remaking, I don't know if I'll remake this one, but it would probably benefit from it. Maybe I'd have to make it smaller so that it would be functional. So this is an abstract reclining figure. I like the concept still, so maybe I'll redo it, but it is definitely a catastrophe. The plaster is hard to work with. It's really finicky. First, you have to make a wire frame that'll be the support in the shape that you want it to be, but like smaller so that there's room for the plaster to be on top of it. Then you put chicken wire on it to hold up the cloth that you have dipped in plaster. It's like a paper mache kind of idea.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, and then you add plaster to the top of that, and then carve it down so that you have the details and shapes and texture that you want. The different batches of plaster have different hardnesses because it depends on how you mixed the plaster. So I should have been measuring and like weighing my plaster versus my water when I was doing it, but I did not.
You didn't. You just went at it and just went like, I'll just throw this together.
Yeah,
blah blah blah. Whatever.
I was trying to learn how to do it by sight, because you can tell like what stage it's at in the mixing cup by how it reacts. So I was trying to do that, I guess, but it just resulted in the different batches of plaster having different hardnesses. So some sections were softer than others. So it was like working with a stone that's like partially
different stone.
Like, yeah, like really hard stone and then really soft. Yeah, it was just so
partially stone, partially wood.
Yeah, it was so you'd go across it and all of a sudden it would gouge in, or you're carefully scraping apart and then you suddenly can't make any progress and it just your tool just becomes dull on the plaster. It was so frustrating. And I didn't make the wire frame proportionally how I wanted it to be, so it really doesn't look like a person. It looks too squished and it doesn't have enough visual interest from the side, which is the most common viewing angle. You have to kind of look at it from the top, which is weird for a piece of this size. So you'd have to have it on a podium at like knee height, which would be bonkers. So it's just like...
Yeah, you made it so the most interesting part was the least common viewing angle.
Right.
Like nobody looks at stuff from the top, Jenna.
If you... you could do it on purpose that way. Like, if I was going to have
you just,
that
like,
idea,
sit it on the floor.
Yeah, sit it on the floor or something, or, like, put it in a hole in the floor and put glass on top of it. Or, like, I don't know. It was really bad. You can do that on purpose, but don't do it on accident. That's a bad piece, right?
Generally speaking, if you do it on accident, there are happy accidents. There are a couple of those. But generally speaking, if you do it on accident, it's usually like a crap.
Oh no. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, now how can I hide that?
Right. Exactly. If I made it smaller, maybe I could mount it on the wall, and that might work. But that would be weird considering it's a reclining figure, so they'd be like reclining against the wall anti-gravity style. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess next time if you redo or reimagine or whatever, just maybe pretend this is baking and not cooking, and remember that you should definitely measure stuff. Like cooking, you can say a pinch of this, and baking is just like, no, when I say 2/3 cup, I mean 2/3 cup.
Right. And, it wouldn't even be 2/3 cup. It would be like 1 ounce or whatever. You'd have to actually weigh it. Yeah.
Well, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, back onto our regular scheduled program. I have had many 2D conquests because I am 2D master. But the one that is probably the best 2D conquest is the painting I made that made me really fall in love with painting. And it's called Justice, and it's actually hanging in our living room.
I love this piece so much.
Everybody loves this piece. There's 2 pieces I have made, this and one of my lesbian series, that everybody just says, wow, I want that in my living room or house.
You should make prints of these.
I don't know if the Justice painting maybe, but I don't know if the print, the because there's different textures going on with the other painting.
Yeah.
And Justice, I'm not sure if it really gets the same message across if it's not big.
You could print it big, though.
I guess I could print it big.
You can have a copy of this, but only if it's 3 by 5 feet.
That's the original way it's supposed to be viewed, is exactly 3.5 by 4.5 feet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just don't get the same kind of feeling.
Like a Rothko.
Like a Rothko, yeah. You really don't. This is my first large painting. It was demanded by the professor. We could paint whatever we want, but we had to make our own canvas, and it had to be minimum 4 feet by 4 feet. We were able to negotiate. It just had to be so if I took half an inch off of one side, I had to put half an inch somewhere else or whatever. So I did 3.5 feet by 4.5 feet.
He just wanted the same area.
He just wanted basically the same area. He wanted it big, so it had to be at least 4 feet by 4 feet of some kind of amount of area. Because I was just like, well, what if I wanted to make something really big, but it was thin and long?
Right.
And he's just like, that's fine. I don't care. As long as it equals out to about 4 feet by 4 feet. If you made it 1 foot by 7 feet, sure. But, so this piece is about the suddenly obvious to me degradation of our justice system and the feelings that I have about that. I like the ambiguity I was able to instill with the burning field and the burning flower in the burnt field. It can kind of be both hopeful and devastating at the same time. My arm was absolutely killing me by the end of this, but I fell in love with painting with a large brush and then getting into the details afterwards. The different experiences you get from looking at this from far away versus looking at it from up close is really pleasing. It was both the process and the end result that just really made me fall in love with painting. I cannot say necessarily what it is that exactly specific that made me fall in love with painting. It was kind of just this whole experience. But I just love this painting and the making of it, and other than the stretching of the canvas, that kind of sucked.
I've never done that before. It sounds awful.
It was fine. It was fine for the 3.5 by 4.5. But as soon as you get any bigger than that, as soon as it's too big for the table, it gets really bad. I will admit. And this painting I used artist canvas for. My next biggest painting I used tent canvas, which was not fun to deal with. It's half the price for twice the amount of work.
Oof.
So you could take it.
If that's worth it.
You gotta decide if that's worth it. But it was $80 for the amount of canvas I bought. So just imagine $160 on nothing but canvas.
Oh boy.
So that's it for me. The extra $80 was worth it. On the other hand, for the 3.5 by 4.5, I think the amount of canvas it cost me $50.
That's not bad.
And so I just went with the more expensive artist canvas.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you didn't spend your arm strength on making the canvas so that you could spend it on painting the piece.
Oh, and I also had to buy a nice big brush, too. That big brush was $40.
Oof.
It's sable, so it's not synthetic.
Right.
And so non-synthetic brushes are made with actual animal hair, so that is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But just the way that it holds paint, specifically oil paint more than anything else, is just so much better than synthetic brushes. Once you actually have painted enough, you can kind of feel the difference in the way the paint comes off the brush. Mm-hmm. And they come off in different ways. One is not better than the other necessarily. It all depends on your preference.
Right.
On the way and I just love the way paint comes off the brush of a sable hair brush versus a synthetic.
That's cool. I'd like to try that. Like I say, I want to try all the things.
Try all the things!
I like sitting in the living room and looking at Justice and thinking about the composition of it.
The use of negative space is just really important to that piece. And I think that's why making, not having it big just doesn't have the impact that it would normally. If you made it smaller, that negative space becomes smaller and it's just not the same piece.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, again, I have many 3D conquests. Thank you. But one of my favorites... Yeah, wah! One of my favorites to work on was this installation piece called Red and Blue. It was a 4-person project. It was really great. There was a lot of camaraderie during the whole thing. We were all really passionate about it. The piece is about the political division in the U.S. right now. We painted half of the room bright red and the other half bright blue, and attached the fence in the corner, so you can only get to the back of the room by choosing a side of the fence to be on. We wrote phrases in chalk on the walls, and then left the chalk there for the visitors to write with as well.
Was the chalk white?
The chalk was different colors, but some of it was white, yeah.
It should have been all white, so then you could have red, white, and blue.
Well, we wanted a little bit of variety, so it wasn't so on the nose.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, I mean, it's kind of really on the nose already, but...
It is, yeah. So it was really interesting seeing people's reactions to the piece. During the reception, someone came up and asked, are we supposed to write on the wall we align with, or the one we're against? Like, what are we supposed to do with it? And we're like, you're supposed to do whatever you think you're supposed to do. Because what we wanted was to see what people would do. And what resulted was a bunch of different reactions to it. So people would get on one wall or the other and have a little fight, and then somebody came in near the very end and drew hearts over the whole thing, like 100 or more hearts everywhere. People wrote in different languages. Since it's on a college campus, you have a lot of exchange students. So some of it, I don't even know what it says. It's just all really passionate, and people would
just put it into Google Translate. You'll get something.
Yeah.
Whether that's a true statement or not, like whether it's a true translation or not, I'm just gonna wash my
idea. Yeah,
I'll wash my hands of that. But
so it was during the time when people were talking about, I say people, but we know who we're talking about, putting up a wall on the border. And the most touching part I felt was somebody went in and drew in the corner where the fence is attached to the wall. They drew themselves on one side and their mother on the other side.
Ouch.
Oh.
Ow. Ow. That ouch in so many ways.
So many ways, yeah.
So many ways that could be taken. Like, that's an art piece in itself.
Right. They were here at the university, and their mother was in, I can't remember what country, but a country that was, it was either Mexico or an Islamic country. So they were affected by the travel ban and that kind of thing. And their mom couldn't come to their graduation.
Yeah, see, and I was also seeing this also as like, this has hit me in the way of like my family. My family's very strangely well aligned in their political beliefs, but they're pretty red. Mm-hmm. I'm the hippie liberal.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, that just, the fact that just made me more of a hippie liberal. Like, just during my teenage years, you're like, oh, you think I'm a hippie liberal? I'll show you hippie liberal. Except for all the drugs. I didn't, except for all the drugs. I'm not that kind of hippie.
Yeah.
But, like, the idea of being on different sides in that way, to have your mom on and your family on one side and you on the other, and to have this political divide, like, we literally cannot talk about certain topics because it's just not, it's not safe. It's not, you love your family and you don't want to cause problems and you don't want to cause hurt to yourself or them, so you just don't say anything, and it's this wall of silence that is really hard to deal with.
Yeah. I don't know if you can tell from the pictures, but we put barbed wire on the top of the fence too.
Oh yeah. That's even more on the nose there, Jenna.
Yeah.
That's even more like that's stating really hard that you cannot sit and be neutral in this space. Like, you cannot sit on the middle of the fence.
The fence doesn't go all the way to the door because it's not long enough. We had to leave space for people to be able to walk in. So you can stand in that corner where the door opens and be technically in the middle. But
that's not the part, like the part of the
Right.
art piece is to come up to the wall and to write, right? So
in order to get involved in it and write, you have to choose which side to write on and which side of the fence to stand on.
Yeah. But like putting that barbed wire really kind of like says, to me at least, like there's no neutrality. You can't, right now, you cannot sit in the middle and be like, there's no middle ground to be had.
Mm-hmm.
There's no neutrality. You have to choose a side.
Yeah. And obviously I'm saying that that's a bad thing. So I'm really interested in finding ways to bridge those gaps, because I think that's the only way that we're going to make our country a better and a safe place. I
mean, like, I would love to bridge gaps. You can't, right now, like, I can't even talk to my family about anything.
Yeah.
They just won't listen. And so, like, if one side doesn't listen, then there's nothing you can do, really. I don't know how to make somebody else listen, like, to like somebody else's ideas and not like act like, I don't know.
We can talk more about this later, but
that's true. We're getting off topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I'm working on learning some techniques that you can use to bring harmony, at least in a small group of people, and then you can use that to spread out further. So I'm working on it. I'm looking into it. There's hope, is what I'm trying to say.
Ever the optimist.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but we're off topic. We're moving on. All right, so this is the fight, Jenna. This is the fight.
Here we go.
All right, here we go. I'm just fisticuffs. I'm up. Here's 2D is easier to display. People are less likely to have somewhere to display a sculpture any larger than would fit on a bookshelf, unless you're really rich.
But sculptures allow for a different relationship between the viewer and the art piece, just like that installation I was talking about. It takes up 3D space, like people do. And with 3D pieces, you can do touch tours for vision-impaired people.
While that's true, 2D pieces are easier to document for those that can't come see them in person. And the entry point for beginners is cheap and easy.
Well, doesn't that mean that you have a lot of competition? Besides, in 3D, you can use any materials you want.
True, but can you take those materials on the go?
Well, our materials are very durable, so we have a lot of historical examples, and pieces that are being made now will last a long time.
Yes, but I've never had my neighbor complain about the noise from my painting, nor have I had trouble with my paintbrush trying to take my arm off or set my hair on fire.
You have your fair share of dangerous chemicals over there.
Just don't drink them, or smell them for too long, or get certain ones on your skin.
Uh-huh.
And so the titanic clash between dimensions comes to a close. Who do you think won this mighty showdown? Let us know in the comments. And while you're at it, tell us what you thought of this episode overall. Did Cade get too weird with it? Did you like the section breaks? Does pineapple belong on pizza? There are correct answers, and you will be tested on this. Until the next time Kelly and Jenna make the mistake of letting me do this again, I have been Cadence of the Blade. Jenna, Kelly, take it away.
That's the end of this episode. I'm Jenna Coffin.
And I'm Kelli Collins. Our amazing music and the editing for the podcast are done by Cadence of the Blade. You can find him on Twitch at twitch.tv/Cadence of the Blade.
If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at where2d and3dmeet@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook. If you'd like to see our artwork, you can find me at withkoji.com/@Jenna_Coffin.
And you can find me at kellykcollins.com. This podcast is brought to you by our patrons. Without our patrons, we wouldn't be here, so thank you to our Medici family members, Eric Huntsman and Norm Beverstock. Thank you as well to our enthusiasts, whose names you can see on the screen now.
If you'd like to support us too, head over to patreon.com/where2D and 3D meet, where you can get early access to episodes, join our Discord server for art discussions with us, and get exclusive episodes. Links can be found in the description below.
Thank you to all of you for listening. We hope you'll join us next episode, where 2D and 3D meet.